Welcome to Age Friendly Cleveland. My name is Mary McNamara, and I'm the director of the Cleveland Department of Aging. Across our country, we have what we call an aging network of services because no one division of government, agency, hospital system, or faith-based group provides all the services an older adult might need to age successfully. As examples, some older adults may need transportation or in-home health care, modifications to the home, or resources for staying engaged after retirement. It is our hope with this Age Friendly Cleveland series that you might learn more about the resources right here in Cleveland. This next segment is about one of the trusted agencies we work closely with every day to make Cleveland an age-friendly city.
Welcome to Age Friendly Cleveland. I'm Enrique Correa, and I'm joined with Dr. Doug Beach of the Western Reserve Area Agency on Aging. Thank you for joining us on the show.
Appreciate it. Call me Doug, please.
Call you Doug? All right, Doug. Tell us about your organization and who you serve.
Well, if you don't mind taking a little bit on the history, that would be great. My first foray into aging, I was in probably the third or fourth grade, and we lived in Licking County, Ohio, right outside of Columbus, and we went down to the old people's home in Granville. And as you may recall, back at that time, a lot of folks that didn't have income would end up in an old people's home, and so we were there, we were singing, the basement was boarded up where we were, the seniors were disheveled and they were trying to touch us. And I can remember that being a pretty scary experience. But if you remember back to the 50s and 60s, the poverty rate in the senior population was nearly 50%.
Wow. So
if you didn't have family to take care of you and you were too poor, too sick to take care of yourself, you ended up on one of these senior farms. This one was a farm. And so on this facility, you were expected to work for your living, and if you couldn't work for your living, you went to bed to die.
Wow.
So as I said, the poverty rate was 45, 50%. A lot of people ended up there, and so what happened was the Great Society programs of the Kennedy and Johnson administration. Medicaid pays for long-term care for seniors who can't afford it. Medicare is probably the best healthcare system of its type in the world, and then the Older Americans Act. And I always explain to people that the Older Americans Act is the third rail, but the Older Americans Act is the only piece of legislation that actually tries to decrease the expense for Medicaid and Medicare.
Gotcha.
And that's what we are. We go ahead and Older Americans Act pays for Meals on Wheels, it pays for congregate meals, and it pays for transportation. The Older Americans Act set up a series of area agencies on aging like ours nationwide. So if anybody in the listening audience wants to look at an area agency in their area, they can find one fairly readily. So there's 650 of them, 27,000 local service providers, 57 state units on aging. State unit on aging is in Columbus. Now, our organization, we are the biggest area agency on aging in Ohio. We have the Northeast Corridor, Cuyahoga, Lake Lorraine, Medina, and Geauga counties. Mm-hmm. Huge senior population. We get a lot of the state and federal money for programs like Meals on Wheels, for Medicaid type programs, and we help administer those programs and try to get seniors in the right place at the right time.
So what is your mission?
Our mission is to allow seniors to age with independence and dignity in a self-selected setting. So allow them to age at some place they want to call home.
How can your organization help with placement and helping people qualify for a lot of these services that they may not know about?
Well, a couple ways. First of all, we administer a lot of these programs, but by administer, the way some people define administer, they don't understand how direct the service is. So we do case management, and we also do screening and assessment. Mm-hmm. So we'll go ahead and through our Aging Disability Resource Network, and there's a bunch of folks in that, including the city, they'll go ahead and try to funnel people our way. Mm-hmm. And then we'll do the assessment, determine whether they're eligible. If they aren't, we'll go ahead and suggest that they get involved with a local senior center. If they are eligible from a Medicaid perspective, then we'll try to help them with that eligibility.
You have a program called Home Choice.
Yes.
Tell me about that, please.
Well, it's the old, for anybody that's familiar with the type of programs that we do, it's the old Money Follows the People program. And what it essentially does is, if somebody's in a nursing home and they would like to transition to the community, but they don't have the housing to do it or the informal supports to do it, they'll call us. Or we'll reach out to them. And what we'll do then is we'll find housing for them, we'll find services for them, we'll go ahead and transition them from that nursing home to wherever that apartment or home is, and then we'll go ahead and track them over time.
Why is that important?
Well, most people want to age, as we say, with independence and dignity, and most people want to age in the community if they can. Nursing homes are an essential part of the aging network, but not from a grand total, not a huge part. If you look at how seniors age in Ohio, 90% of seniors in the state of Ohio are well elders. Another 10% are somewhere in the aging continuum, and probably around 4 to 5% are in assisted living facilities or nursing homes. So we're talking about a huge number of people that want to be in the community, and they're well enough that that's a good place for them to stay.
What about family caregiver support?
Family caregiver support it's an interesting program. It started in the early 2000s, 2002, 2003. And what it recognized a couple things. First of all, it recognized that a lot of grandparents are taking care of grandkids.
Right.
Now, the funding limitation is a little disappointing in the sense that it's for people 60 and over, whereas a lot of the people taking care of grandkids are 40 and over, young grandparents taking care of young grandkids. But having 3 grandkids of my own, you know how stressful that can be if you can't get them in the right place at the right time and help them along their way. So what this program does, it does 2 things. First of all, for grandparents raising grandkids, it'll go ahead and assess their needs. When I worked in another area, we actually would send the grandkids to summer camp. So things like that. So assess the needs, what they needed, and help pay for respite if necessary. Now, the other part of the caregiver program is people 60 and over taking care of parents, aging parents. And I don't know if you've done that.
I have.
Yeah, my mother-in-law was with us for a while. It's tough.
It is.
It's a really tough job, and this was back in the early 2000s for us, before the caregiver program, and we couldn't get anybody, even though I was in the system, couldn't get anybody to really help tell us how we could make things easier, because our kids were at home at the same time, how we can make things easier, and that's what this does. So it'll go in, it'll assess people. It may very well say, hey, we'll give you 2 or 3 days. We'll go ahead and find a place for your loved one to stay for 2 or 3 days so you can just take some me time. So it's a tremendous program, again, underfunded.
Your organization advocates for older adults and caregivers. Give me some examples of that.
Well, I will tell you that we do as well as anybody in Ohio on the advocacy perspective, and maybe as well as anybody in the nation. We created a program called Advocacy in Motion. And Advocacy in Motion is a partnership with the Center for Community Solutions. And what we're doing is we're going out and training people on how to be advocates. We've trained almost 600 people in less than a year and a half. And what we know from a political perspective is that if we go in and talk to a politician and say, hey, I need more money for Meals on Wheels, he's going to say, well, I get it, that's your job, that's what you need to say. We'll try to help you. But it depends on what the budget situation is.
Exactly.
If we go in there with one of his constituents with us, telling him what a great program the Meals on Wheels program is, now we have somebody he really wants to listen to. He or she really wants to listen to. And so it pushes the ball down the road quite a ways, and from our perspective, it gets a senior involved and then also helps us do what we need to do.
One thing that a lot of individuals like to do now is volunteering.
Right.
I've met individuals that are in their 70s that are volunteering, helping other seniors.
Right.
Tell me about volunteering and how can they get involved?
Well, the first thing is they can get involved in Advocacy in Motion. So that's a program that we started here, as I said, a year and a half ago. It's been very dynamic and working very well here. We're in the process of expanding it to the state. We would like to get as many seniors as we possibly can advocating for our issues so that the next time we need some money to go ahead and decrease the need for Medicare, Medicaid, which is what we do, maybe they can go to Columbus and help us, or to one of the local legislators and help us. So clearly, the Advocacy in Motion program needs more volunteers. But we do somewhere between 100 and 150 fairs a year out in the community.
Okay.
And we could use help. People could help us at those fairs if possible, and then they could also help us at our annual meeting.
What's the number and the website?
The phone number is 800-626-7277, and I'll slow down. 800-626-7277. And then the website is www.psa10a.org.
All right. Is there a lot of great information? Anything we missed so far?
No. I hope people can get out and tell everybody what great programs we have. We're going through some pretty tough times legislatively, so if you can talk to your folks in Washington and tell them what a great program Meals on Wheels and senior transportation is, we'd appreciate it. And then if you can talk to the folks in Columbus about how useful Medicaid is up here in Cleveland, that would be helpful as well.
Every little bit helps.
Every little bit.
Especially right now in this economy.
Right.
Well, Dr. Doug Beach, thank you for joining us. And I also wanted to thank our viewers out there for watching this segment of Age Friendly Cleveland. I'm Enrique Correa for TV 20. We are Age Friendly Cleveland.